Well, thanks for reading that story for us, Gordon. And I want to also thanks for your little story about, I guess, just appreciating this congregation, because I've had similar thoughts this week, and it's made me aware that I probably don't tell you guys that I love you often enough. I do. I really love being here. And I love all the relationships that I build with you. And it's wonderful to have visitors come and sort of be here in this place. And I feel this great sense of pride knowing that if somebody comes, maybe for the first time or the second or third time they come along, I know this is a great place to be. And I know, I have a sense of pride at being able to say, come in, you will love it here. Maybe the songs aren't quite what you thought, or maybe we get our language wrong sometimes, or I think we're perhaps a holy Bedlam rather than unholy Bedlam. Bedlam though it might be, it's a great place to be. And this week we have this wonderful passage, and I want to backtrack a little bit on this story of Jacob's ladder. It's a story that has captivated people for centuries. It's a vision that people love. This idea that there are places in our lives, places in this world, where heaven and earth are so close and you can really feel God is reaching down into my world. We set up this ladder. And we try, and maybe we feel like we're at the top of our ladder, or maybe we feel like we're just at the bottom of that ladder. But when we find a place and we realise that the last step is that God comes to us, and like Jacob, we wake up and feel and say to ourselves, God is in this place, and I was unaware of it, but now I am. There are lots of places like that, and like the beautiful poem that Linda shared with us, there's something about the hard places in life. It picks up that image that Jacob got to this crossing, this place on his journey, and all he had for a pillow that night was a rock. Now, I'm not sure whether it's a really big rock. I think one of your paintings had him sort of reclining on this rock, looking very comfortable. I've always thought, he gets a pillow-shaped rock and puts that under his head, and thought, that is not going to be comfortable. There is something hard about the place that he finds himself in. And it's revelatory when he wakes up and realises God is in this place. Now you're probably thinking, oh, well, he knows God, he's been walking with God, or this is Jacob. So let's just refresh our memory for all of those who didn't read the chapters leading up to this story, this journey, is because, if you don't remember, he's running for his life. He has just stolen his brother's birthright. Deceptively, he's over the bowl of soup, you remember, give me all the inheritance and I'll give you this bowl of soup. What a deal. So that one, and then his brother realises, oh, I've been swindled here. And then there's this wonderful story of the blessing. So he's got the inheritance, but his mum is given this oracle that the younger of the two sons will receive God's blessing, that promise of land and descendants like the grains of sand, and the blessing of God to be on them and with them, and that God would be their God and they would be God's people. That blessing is going to go with Jacob. Grabber is his name, okay? And that's why he's called Grabber, because when the twins are born, he comes out second, but grabbing onto his brother's heel. And so they called him Grabber. Later on, he will be given a new name by God. He says, you are Israel. Okay, you remember the one who wrestles with God. So his grabbing has become wrestling, but it's still very much who he is. Anyhow, that's another story. That's coming later. In this story, the only time he has mentioned God is when he is tricking his father, Isaac, into giving him the blessing. He's pretending that he's Esau, you remember, and the mum says, hey, just go and pretend I'll make the stew like your brother makes. Give it to Isaac and he'll think it's you. And he goes, no, I can't do that. Not because that's morally reprehensible, and that would be stealing. No, he says, I'll get caught. I couldn't do that because he'll know it's not me. Well, a famous line from me is, because my brother is an hairy man and I am an smooth man. And so he said, the mum says, we'll put the skins of the goats that we kill on your arms and across your neck, and he won't even know. And he says, but he'll smell me. He said, well, we'll put your brother's clothes on, so you'll smell like him, you'll feel like him, and he won't even know, because he's blind, he can't see a thing. And you will make the soup that tastes like his soup. So we'll trick him into the blessing. And Isaac says, is that really you, Esau? It doesn't sound like you. He said, oh, yes, it's me. He says, it smells like you, Esau, but is it really you? Oh, yes, it's me. And he says, well, how did you catch the game to make the soup so quickly? I've only just sent you out to go and hunt. Yet here you are with soup 3 minutes later. He goes, well, your God has blessed me so quickly. That's the only time Jacob ever mentions God. And it's in this deceit. And then when his brother finds out that he's just been diddled out of the blessing, when Isaac says, okay, come here, and he puts his hand on his neck and feels, oh, it's all rough and hairy. My goodness, it must be. And he sniffs him and he says, oh, it does smell like Esau. And he gives him this blessing. And then Esau finds out. And Esau says, I'm going to kill that brother of mine. But Mum hears and says, well, you know, God promised it all to you, so you've got the inheritance, if you can keep hold of it. You've got the blessing of God, but you probably need to run, because your brother's coming. And he's the big strong one, so you better go. So why not go looking for a wife with my family way over there? So that's what's happening. He's on the run from his brother who's going to kill him. He's cheated and stolen his way into God's blessing, and he's on the run. Now, you could be asking yourself, you know, is that really God's blessing? And to that you would have to say, does Isaac really know, you know, who he's giving the blessing to? Is he really fooled by goat skin and, you know, wearing the different clothes and all that? Is he really fooled? Or is there something else at work here that says, God has chosen this one? And are they all sort of playing along with that? Because how else would you separate two children when God has chosen one and maybe not the other? I don't know. Well, we can see clearly Rebecca's actions. Isaac's are different. Anyhow, so he's on the run for his life. He's leaving this place where he thought he was setting up his future. And he's all alone. And so he's out in the wilderness and he has this rock to keep him company and to be his pillow for the night. And he goes to sleep and he has this dream. And in the dream, he sees that heaven is so close to him in this place. That angels are going up and coming down on this ladder, up to heaven, that it's so close that the messengers of God are clearly visible going up and down. But it's not the messengers who come to him. God himself stands next to Jacob. And there's something really significant about that, you know, the answer of your question, Andrew. It's not that we need these messengers. It is that God comes to Jacob in this place and says to him, I am going to do all these things that I've promised. I'm going to give you this land that you're lying on. It says, I'm going to give you the blessing of descendants beyond counting. And he says, and more than that, I'm going to be with you. When you go on your journey from this place, I'm going to go with you. And I'm going to bring you back into this place. And I'm not going to leave you, not for one moment, the whole of that journey, until I've done all these things. All of the things that I've promised to you. And then Jacob wakes up and realises God is in this place. And he's moved so far from a person who doesn't know God to a person who's experienced the God of his forefathers, this God that has led them and provided for them and blessed them, that his dad and his grandpa and all the others have met and have talked about. He's finally met him, and he met him here. And so in the morning he sets up this rock. Now, I don't know, you'll have to use your imagination as to how big this rock is, but let's just imagine he stands it up, and then he pours oil over it. And you realise that pouring the oil over it is consecrating it. It's making it holy in the sense that he said, this is a special place. This is a sacred place because God is here. It's the very gate of where earth and heaven meet. So I'm going to set up this rock as a reminder that this is a sacred place. I'm going to pour oil over it, not because now this is the most sacred place in the world, but I'm going to pour oil over it so that when I come back, I'll be able to recognise this rock from all the other rocks. It's very simple, really. But it's a reminder to him, this is where God met me, in this place. And it's a reminder to those who follow after me, friends or family, or for generations to come. I'll be able to say, you see that rock just there in that place, and it's standing up and it's dark because it's got oil all over it. And every time I come past, I'm going to put oil on it and remember that God is close there. There is this thing called thin places, where the gap between heaven and earth is really thin, and we're close to God, and he discovers it in this place. And we have this wonderful blending of, here's a sacred place, a bit like this. We'd say this is a sacred place. It's a special place. God meets us here. But we also hear that promise, I go with you. I'm not only here. This is not special because it's the only place you'll find me. It's just, it was a place in your life. And a minister told a story once about when he was a kid, maybe a bit younger than Solomon is. He was at school, and they still had blackboards in those days. And the teacher had this habit that if a child had done something really good, had been, a beautiful child, as a treat and as a reward for that behaviour, the teacher, because they were little kids and she was a lovely teacher and they all thought this was really special, she, from her desk, would go to the chalkboard, the blackboard, and she would whisper something secret to them at her end of, and nobody else in the class could hear. But if you stood over in the other corner and you faced the blackboard away from everybody, you were the only person who could hear that secret story that she would tell. And everybody desperately wanted to be in the corner and to be given that opportunity and to be told something special. The hard places of life are like that corner. We are in a special place. Maybe it's a really difficult place, but we're close to God. We're in that place where we can hear something special from God. Now, I had might say, an interesting term or phrase, one hell of a week. Tuesday morning started like this. 8 o'clock I had a phone call to say, or a text actually, to say, my dearest friend, has just had an aortic dissection. So she's torn her aorta from here all the way up and all the way down towards her stomach. She has terrible heart condition, a soft tissue condition. So all of her soft tissue organs are failing. And she's already had many heart surgeries and all sorts, but so this went wrong for her. She was in terrible pain, rushed into intensive care unit, and we just didn't know whether she would survive or be able to come good or not. So, as you can imagine, I was a bit traumatised by that. So I come to work for 9 o'clock prayers this morning, and I think, well, I'll be praying for my friends. 5 minutes to 9, Desney Gordon rings me and says, I just want to let you know, if I'm not at church on Sunday, it's because Max has had a fall. He's been rushed to intensive care unit, and Peel couldn't do much for him, so he's gone up to Perth to Fiona Stanley. They've told, gather all the family. He's not good. He may not make it. So if I'm not there, that's why. So that was Tuesday morning. It got, not sure if better or worse from there, and I was sharing with Linda that theologically in my head I wanted to talk about it's in the hard places that we're in a spot where we could hear that special secret word from God to us. And I was pretty vulnerable. I was raw and emotional, and I was a bit mad out of my mind Tuesday morning, trying to, you can ask Cheryl about it. I was trying to make sense, but I probably wasn't, because my mind was somewhere else. And I know you guys in your life have places like that. Maybe you're in one now. I know Desney is. But I know it's my privilege to journey with you when you're in those places. And I'm telling you, remember in those places, the hard places where only rocks are your friends, that you are in a place where you can hear that special whisper of God that says, I go with you. No matter where you go on this journey, I'm with you. And I'll never leave you. Never leave you for a day until I bring you back into the promised land, where you are close to me and where I'm close to you. I'll never leave you, not for a moment. And I thought to myself, how do I preach that Sunday morning? And as I'm trying to explain this to Linda, and I can't get it out, she hugs me. And as other things go wrong this week, people have done that. People have supported me, a few people. Tuesday morning I was able to go and visit Desney and be there for her and hug her. So these hard places remind me that I'm still a blessing to somebody. I can be God for them, that other people are God for me, coming to me with that embrace that says, you are not alone. You might feel it, but you're not alone. And you're that for others. Let's thank God for those hard places, because they're the privilege that we can wake up somewhere along that and say, God is in this place. But I wasn't aware of it until now. Where we can together say, God is in you. I see it. Let's pray. Loving Lord God, thank you so much that you never leave us. You meet us here in this sacred place, and we thank you for it. You feed us and you give us the language that we can understand and make sense of our experience. But you go with us everywhere we go, and you never leave us alone. And in our friends, in this group of people, you reach out to us and you love us. And we praise you, Lord.